All right, so welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at a subtractive sculpting technique using flower foam. So for this particular exploration, I'm just using some Celtic knot designs in order to think about positive and negative space and where I'm going to need to be able to remove material and where I need to be keeping material. The reason that I chose this is because it's relatively simple, but also allows me to try and think through how different elements in the design can actually begin to interact with each other. All right, so the first step, right, is to draw in the design. As you saw, I did it on the surface, and because this is relief, I'm not going to be going all the way through. So I'm going to be drawing essentially a depth line in order to make sure that I'm kind of consistently going down the same amount all the way through. So using a sharp tool, I'm working a little wider than the lines that I created because this is going to use form as opposed to just line. And just a sheet of plastic is allowing me to very efficiently cut out the outer areas of this design. Okay, so using, again, just a sharp tool, a knife, allows me to go in and remove the material. So step one, right, is to simply kind of block out what the overall form is going to be. Okay, so this takes just a couple of minutes here. So we'll just take a look and I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so at this point I'm just kind of smoothing out the surface a little bit, kind of cleaning up the transition from the main object down to the base, right, and using my finger to remove any big inconsistencies in terms of the overall texture. Once this part of the carving is done, I need to start removing the negative space, and I'm using my paper as a reference. So in the design, whatever is that dark black area are the next areas that I'm going to be very, very carefully removing with my carving tools. As you notice, as I'm working, I'm making sure not to blow on any of the flower foam, because the last thing that I'm going to be wanting to do is to get these particulates up into the air. While I'm doing this, I'm also making sure to wear a mask in order to make sure that I'm not breathing any of the little bits in. It's not the best for you, right, to be breathing in these small areas of dust. Okay, so once I have the overall form created, what I'm looking at doing now is creating a little bit more visual variety, a little bit more texture by thinking about creating levels in the subtractive sculpture. Okay, so I'm doing a combination of drawing in with the pencil and lightly drawing in with the metal stylus in order to determine what materials are next to be removed. as you can see, once I get to this point where I'm playing around with the overall structure in the visual levels, right, the design itself becomes a lot more interesting to look at, and is so much more engaging to sculpt as well, as you're trying to problem solve and figure out what parts of the materials need to stay and which parts need to be removed. Okay. So again, as I'm going, I'm being mindful of what areas I can kind of clean up and polish up a little bit and refine that overall surface texture. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is to try and make this a little bit more delicate after kind of cleaning it up with a paintbrush. Right? Use an old brush because the flower foam material kind of gets up into the bristles. It's really good for kind of smoothing out some surfaces and removing that dust. However, it does kind of ruin the brushes. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to do here is just do a little bit of an undercut in order to make the design even more delicate, more engaging to look at, by removing some of the material that is underneath. All right. Hope you learned a little bit about how to create a relief sculpture. If you have any questions, please make sure that you're asking. Bye.